Board of Education's last live board meeting started an hour late. It was really something.
Wow.
Yeah. There we go.
Just need good board members. Everything is taking a while to load.
I wonder if there's something in the legs.
No. Getting our other videos. They're still up on Facebook, and Nancy's going to forward it to Hawk and just say, let me see the audio. Oh, she's in Facebook. If you Zoom, everybody, so they meet in the waiting room. Oh, good.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, we are waiting for Dana and Vikas and Patty. There's Patty. Hi, Patty.
Hello.
Waiting for two more. I'm gonna just pick this up and walk over to my spot. Sorry about that. The computer is not sending things like I think it is. And I don't know what's wrong with it, but we'll get that on the case tomorrow.
I felt like I was having the same issue with my email.
Yeah, it wasn't sending anything even internally. And I sent like 5 things to Debbie on Friday and she didn't get any of them. So I don't know what's going on, but I restarted everything. I changed my password. I hope it'll work now. Here's Vikas. Okay,
Are we good to go on Facebook?
I'm gonna assume that we are, and that Cheryl's in her office. Making sure that it's running. I think she can tell us a bit more.
So just to make sure.
are we good?
Okay, for anyone watching this on Facebook, these are the 3 committee meetings of the board. We don't entertain public comment. We discuss things for future consideration by the board. When the notice for this went out originally, we said there would be a regular board meeting immediately following if there were items to vote on. And we don't have any items from the committee meetings for the board to vote on, but we will be going into executive session. And then our next regular meeting won't be until September, but that doesn't mean we couldn't call a special meeting if something comes up that is needed. So we'll start off with the Personnel Committee. I gave you the minutes from the July Personnel Committee, and then I amended the June committee minutes because I left off some of the discussion we had about our civil unrest and support of anti-racism and things like that. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on any of those? Okay, Nancy, you want to give a staffing update?
Well, these are now going to be of the COVID variety for a little while. Last Monday, we had a staff member who told us that their live-in partner was exhibiting symptoms of COVID, so we requested that he stay home and is seeking treatment, so therefore is eligible for paid time off while we're awaiting the results of a COVID test. In order to come back to work, they have to have a release from their doctor or a negative test, either one, to allow them back. And their leave is until next Monday, so we're hoping that we'll get that release from the doctor or the negative test. We are really having a problem because when people go for testing, they don't know when they're going to get the results back. It's taking more than a couple of days. And so we are letting people stay home under an abundance of caution until we have it all clear, because we are not doctors and we can't make that call. So that's why we said they either have to have the negative test or the doctor's release. If the doctor says you're not showing symptoms and you're good, then let it be on the doctor, not us. So if we don't have either one of those things, then the 10 days of COVID leave would be used up and the person would have to start using their own sick time until the test results or the doctor releases them. So that's where we are with that. We're trying to be very clear about our messaging to the staff. We do tell them when someone is leaving work because of either having symptoms themselves or someone close to them does. But that's because of HIPAA and because we don't know that someone's positive until they are positive. So it is a little hard to keep that communication going. We want to share as much as we can, but we can't do more than we're allowed. So it's a little bit tricky. Do you have any questions about that? No? Okay. Other than that, right now we're kind of on a hold with all of the staff that have come back. We still have just a small handful of people who are not on voluntary leave who were furloughed, who are public service staff, and then a large group of our pages who were furloughed, who are still at home. So we're always trying to think of ways to get them back, but until there's more work to do, it's hard to do that. So our goal is always to bring them back. Maybe later in the fall when we're allowed to be open more and people are healthier in the community, we can we can aim to get them back in the building, back working.
Thanks, and I just want to say thank you for the transparency. I as somebody who deals in labor relations and employment issues, I'm seeing a ton of employers kind of refusing to disclose or trying to hide COVID cases amongst their workforce in order to keep people coming to work, when they maybe shouldn't be. So it's heartening to hear that and not surprising that the library is, doing the right thing and being a good employer in this situation to its staff.
Our goal is to keep our staff healthy. So we feel like the more they know, the healthier they'll be. That's it for personnel.
Okay, Operations Committee, anyone have any corrections or additions to the minutes from the last Operations Committee?
One thing I'd like to just put on your radar for the Operations Committee. While we are sitting here with no customers in the building, we have decided to get a price for replacing all the carpet because it's a perfect time to do it and it would not disrupt any customer activity. So we did have our carpet manufacturer salesman here today, and he should be getting us a price in the next few weeks. So
And this was planned at the beginning of 2020.
right, but we put everything on hold, and then we said, well, this is the perfect time to do this. We're not going to do any of the moving spaces around. We're just going to put carpet, all the same carpet everywhere. And then later on, if we want to do something bigger, we can. But this is a maintenance issue, and it looks really bad, especially like seeing it every day with no people. So we'll just see if we can get that thing done while we're empty. If you will get a chance to vote on the project.
It's out of the DNR fund.
It's DNR fund, and it's also going to be a state pricing situation, so we don't have to get bids.
The item we have on the agenda for your review was the guidelines for the Peace Park. We discussed it at the last committee meeting and said we're basically paralleling the guidelines we have for meeting room to limit how many times a month people can do it and setting our rules and regulations about, what's allowed and what's not allowed and making reservations and things like that. So it basically follows our meeting room guidelines. Did anyone have any questions or comments on it?
Oh, just a minor one. PEACE stands for People Empowering All Children. Where's the E come from?
It's people empowering all. Instead of children, it is now community. And I can't remember what the E is.
Is it everywhere? Something, okay.
I'm sorry, Jim, I'll double check it. Here, I can do it.
If there is an E, can we plug it in?
I can do it right now.
Just.
And also, there are some rules in the Peace Park that are a little bit different, like you have to be aware of the neighborhood. You can't make loud noise. The park closes at dusk. There's no open flame, no fireworks, no weapons. And we did have a customer who is a weapons advocate who's been emailing me since we obtained the property. And I did check with our representative at the county prosecutor's office. And there are 2 places in Ohio Revised Code that say that we can, because government employees are working there, we can post no weapons. And also because, get what the other one was. There were 2 reasons why we're allowed to do it. I think it has to do with children being on the premises.
The playground?
Yeah, no, it was in the building. But anyway, I'm going to write it back and just say we have 2 reasons why we're allowed to keep that sign up there that says no guns. And so we're going to keep it there, and hopefully that will answer his question and also allow us to say no weapons on the property.
Just one more quick question.
Sure.
We say that a religious group cannot use the park as their primary place of worship.
Right.
Business cannot use it as a primary place of business. How are we going to police that, the primary part?
When they register with us now, when we were using Bookaroo, they would have to put down an address. So with churches, and we get their 501c3 or their Secretary of State's compliance certificate, we would find if they had an address somewhere. And my assistant that was in charge of meeting rooms before she went on furlough, she would go out and Google and make sure they had a brick and mortar church someplace. And the only two groups that we've had now use it, we do in fact know that they're 501c3s, and the Safer Heights does not really have a location, but the church that's there does have a location, I believe, on Lee Road.
It's on, no, the church is at the Centrum Theater.
Okay,
Peace is people enhancing a community's environment,
okay.
a community's environment.
Got that from Patty. Thank you.
A community environment.
Community, yes.
Okay, if there's nothing else with that, we'll move on to planning and external relations. Does anyone have any corrections or additions on the minutes for that? Okay, the next item we have, because we formed the subcommittee for real estate. We've had general discussions with Zoom calls with the board, and we thought, just for the sake of transparency, I have one page that just states that we had meetings on these dates and who was present at the meeting, and that we were discussing the Peace Park leases. So that way it's out there that there have been discussions regarding that weren't, that we're disclosing. The next item is the city of University Heights has reached out to us that they were advised by the Ohio EPA that there is money for electric charging stations, and the deadline to apply is September 30th, and they are looking at seeing if they could get money for a charging station on the John Carroll campus, and they thought our University Heights branch would be another good location for it. There's a lot of unanswered questions in it. The grant is a maximum of $15,000, and 50 pages of attachments they sent me with the email just to buy the charging station itself is almost $5,000. And they want a dedicated internet line. I don't know the specifications on the type of electrical line that we need. It's going to be with credit cards and fees, and the warranty is for 5 years, but what happens after that? And I wrote an email back to the person that's handling it at the city, and he's getting more questions, and I'm going to try to schedule a phone call with him. So if it does turn out that it will be a cost neutral item for us, then we'll present it to you in the September committee and board meetings, because by then we should have some more details to find out if the city is going to in fact submit an application. Does anyone have any problems with that?
Nope.
Okay. The next item is a letter that was written by our anti-racism task force, and Nancy, you want to explain what this is and what they are asking the board?
So we are encouraging staff to suggest to us as the leadership things that we can do to help make our community more anti-racist. And they have presented us with a letter they would like to send on behalf of the staff and you. And I think I told them before we can do any of that, the board has to agree and perhaps might want to make comments on the letter. You can read it yourselves. One thing I think would be helpful is if we suggest that they follow the example of some other police forces in other communities. And I know, Patty, that you are now on the police commission or community policing commission for University Heights. And I was very interested in the pledge that the mayor signed, the My Brother's Keeper pledge. Is that something that we should include in this, that we might wish the city of Cleveland Heights to also follow?
Are you asking me that or just?
Yeah, I'm asking you, just your opinion.
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask at this moment because I had a work commitment on this after this last meeting. So I've only been to the introductory. We've had 2 meetings and I've missed one of them. So I'm only about 50% up to speed right now. But from what I know of that pledge, yes, it's very good. There are some questions about the there's another model that I know University Heights was looking at, like something with poll in it that had some questions about, is that necessarily the best practice? But My Brother's Keeper, I think, is really good.
The Brothers Keeper was an organization founded by Barack Obama, I believe, and it was founded while he was in the White House, but continues to support especially issues that revolve around Black men. But I have not read the pledge yet either. I know that in Shaker Heights, they are asking for a community review board and also a database of complaints against policemen. And I don't know if we want to get into the weeds that much at all, but I don't know. So tell me what you think about this letter, and if you'd like to wordsmith it, if there's anything you would like, how do you want us to handle this?
I think I have a question. I think it goes back to what you were saying, Nancy, is that I feel like the letter isn't really, I'm not sure what it's asking. Like the language is fine, but I think I would want a more concrete request, or that we would support you in efforts and would partner with you. That's how I felt initially reading the letter.
I like that idea. What about Vikas?
I was gonna say the same thing. Like the letter just kind of says, we're really mad about these things that are happening, but like, why are we sending them this letter?
Right. Patty just sent us in the chat the link to My Brother's Keeper, correct? Is that what you sent? Okay.
I will actually share that on the Facebook page while this chat is going, so people who are watching can look at it too. I'll do that real quick.
I think we have to we want to walk a fine line between having positive criticism for the police force, but also thanking them for what they do. And I know that our relationship with the police force has been very good, but I know that that does not mean anything in the light of this discussion. So I want to continue to be a good partner, and so I think it would be good for us to have a constructive discussion about this. And so I do think just criticizing isn't always the best way. It would be nice if we gave something we were asking for. One of the things we could do is offer to continue to host some of their community fora. They do talk to the police every Thursday night. I think we could do something with speakers that speak to the reason why this is necessary in America today. There have been terrible incidents. I am following Say Her Name very carefully, and am not happy with the fact that people have been killed and no one's been prosecuted. That's not necessarily a local issue, but it certainly could trickle down to our police force. And I think we all need to we are held accountable as a public library, and I think the police force should also be held accountable. So again, I want to say something meaningful when we write to them. So I think we should work on this a little bit, if you don't mind. Would one of you care to offer some suggestions that I could share back with the staff, and we can keep this going?
I mean, one thing you said that, when you were talking about, okay, we could do like more forums or something. I think like that kind of tone, and that kind of like, that's offering something with the letter, at least. Like that's saying, hey, you have these goals. We can help you. Like we have a role in being able to help you meet those goals. I think that would be a better track to take than just, these things are bad.
I think consistent with that, in the past, when the library has been asked to take positions on issues, we've made a point of staying somewhat neutral and providing a forum for conversation. So I tend to agree that we should make it clear that we'll be a platform for people to discuss the issues. I don't think it's our role to advocate, to criticize the police, or to criticize anybody else. So I'd be more comfortable if we were letting it be known, as we have in the past, that we are a public forum for discussion for everybody.
Right. I can say that more than 12 or 13 years ago, we divorced ourselves of having police, off-duty police in our buildings because of the use of force. We witnessed too many incidents where things got escalated quickly, especially with Black youth. And we did not want to set that tone in our building. So we switched to training our own security staff so that they would be more of a public relations team. They would get to know the people in our building, listen to them, help them solve their problems, and hopefully not have it escalated to a conflict or someone being kicked out or anything like that. So I'm proud that we took that approach a long time ago. I had seen some pretty awful things happen before that. So, and also in other libraries as well. So I think it's a good thing for libraries to use their own rules and do their own security in that way, because we don't want weapons in our buildings, and we don't want any accidental use of a weapon. And when you have an off-duty policeman or a policeman, they're usually carrying a weapon. So, all right, well, I don't want to belabor this too long because we're not going to come to an answer in the committee meeting. But perhaps, because maybe you and Patty, or Gabe and Patty, or Annette, whoever wants to, if you guys could pass this around a little bit amongst yourselves, and then we'll come up with a couple of suggestions for changes.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Were there particular reforms that they had in mind when writing the letter?
I think they're just stating their position. So I don't think they did, and I think that's what we're asking for. I think we need a little more meat on the bone. Mm-hmm. And I know that they have access to that information, so we could work on that together. I don't mind playing go-between, or I can put you in touch with the people on the committee, and we can run some email back and forth between the staff committee and the board. Cheryl's on the committee. She's going to speak to that. Thank you, Cheryl.
Well, it's a very rough draft, obviously. We did want input. Kevin Eccles, our head of security, and I are both members of the Anti-Racism Task Force, and we made our statement to the community.
Right.
But we felt like we didn't want to just let it end there. So we wanted to directly address elected officials in particular.
Okay.
So yeah, we know it's not finished yet. We were hoping for feedback.
Well, I know that Jason Stein and Khalil Sarin had a forum about a month ago. And, in the time of COVID, it's very difficult to get these things done, and, it's online.
And I guess too, it's much like we did with the drag queen story times. We sent out a very forceful letter about that. So we'd like to do the same with racism.
Do you want it to go beyond the local? Do you want it to go to the state house?
We were asking for feedback about what you think, but we didn't want it to just end with our statement about how terrible things were. We did want to reach out to elected officials and at least tell them, we haven't dropped it. We'd like to see what comes next. We'd like to see what you're doing. But yeah, we very much wanted the board's feedback on it, because we would like to send something out as part of the Anti-Racism Task Force.
I think the angle that I'm kind of thinking about, and Nancy, here's where you can help with just the context you offered about years ago, you sort of diverged from the security forces you used to have. I feel like maybe for those of us who are going to be reviewing it, kind of just a few bullet points on all of those instances to sort of demonstrate the leadership that the library's already taken. And then, yeah, we can say, and in addition to this, here's what we'd like to see, and we call on our officials, because I know that this conversation's in earnest in University Heights, and I can't imagine that
Yeah.
Cleveland Heights is much further behind. In fact, have they already done? I don't remember if there's something happening in Cleveland Heights yet.
I don't know.
Okay.
I've not heard of it.
So what I think that I could add to some bullet points, I think Kevin could, we have seen some things with kids who are, young people who are getting picked up here, with other instances that we've seen. So maybe give us about a week and we'll send you another draft and then you can respond to it as well. How about that?
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Cheryl.
Want to give them any updates on Peace
So
Park places?
since our last meeting where we listened to the many comments of people regarding the Coventry School, I have gotten many letters. I know you have gotten some letters. And we promised people that we would talk about it in committee. But at the same time, we have ongoing negotiations with the Peace Park tenants. And I don't want to get into that too much because that's still a moving target. But I would like to have you maybe take turns and just talk about your impressions from our meeting and just what you think you'd like to say in response. I think they deserve a response, but we're not there yet. So how would you like to handle it?
I'll jump in. Like the rest of you, I've gotten a bunch of letters and I purposely have not responded to them for the reason you mentioned, Nancy, because we have ongoing negotiations. And you've seen how some people are taking things that we have said or not said and twisting them around. So not to disrespect them reaching out, we will respond to all of them, but I caution you against writing your own view on this without consulting with Cheryl or the rest of the board about how you respond because of the kind of tentative nature of what we're talking about right now. That being said, I was deeply moved by the people who reached out to us about how strongly they feel about the Coventry School campus. I was encouraged and not particularly surprised about the level of support for that, maintaining the campus. At the same time, we all got some letters from people who take the opposite position. That is, the library is not supposed to be spending its money subsidizing particular organizations that they happen to like. So I guess, I'm a little torn. I think there are good arguments on both sides. I'm concerned about us leaving a vacuum in that neighborhood. I'm also concerned though about us using money in a way that's not legal based on what we're allowed to do with our money. And I think that's one of my bitter concerns is that we may have agreed to subsidize them. I'm not sure legally we're able to indefinitely support them. And that makes it a fairly simple decision on our part as to whether we can or can't. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else?
I think what I was struck, like Jim, I was moved by everyone, sort of the passion and the commitment, obviously, that people have to memories of the school or just the fact that they live in the neighborhood. I did, and I know this kind of came from the press release that went out. I was surprised at how quickly the conversation took a jump to don't tear down the school, because I know that Nancy, you'd presented that in a eventuality, like this is something that we might consider, because in an effort to say, look, this is not something to be developed. This was never the intention. At least this is my impression. I can't speak for the board.
Yes.
So I kind of, during the comments, I wanted to weigh in and say, let's not talk about, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna like be homeless and the building gets torn down. Like, I wanted to slow it down. And I'm hoping that the discussions that have been taking place since then have kind of slowed that down a little bit. But I think mostly that was a perception on the part of people in the public who just kind of panicked a little bit. So I'm hoping that kind of as we continue all these talks, that'll kind of, people can, slow down enough to kind of see this all the way through and not have a reaction that is not as informed as we would hope that it would be. But yeah, I like Jim, I got notes from, I got kind of copied on a few things and really thoughtful notes from some people that I respect a lot. And it's the same thing, some notes of people saying, well, maybe you should rethink this. So this is not easy. I mean, this is not an easy decision. And I know the library and all of these organizations have the same goal of like an educated, vibrant community. So, we keep talking about it and figuring it out, but I heard and took in everything that everyone had to say. So I just want to say I appreciate everyone who shared their perspective.
Anyone else?
Okay, if we have nothing else for the committees, we're going to move to an executive session. Or we're going to go to a regular board meeting. I'd like to call the roll for the board meeting at 7:06. Ms. Carlisle.
Present.
Ms. Crenshaw.
Present.
Ms. Llewellyn. Mr. Gerbach.
Present.
Ms. Iwamoto.
Present.
Mr. Rusa.
Here.
Mr. Toracchio.
Here.
I certify that the notification of this meeting has been made. Since there are no items to be voted upon, we won't have any public comment, and I will entertain a motion to enter executive session for matters required to be kept confidential.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
No, of course not. You us here.
Oh.
That's fine. Ms. Carlisle,
Yes.
Ms. Crenshaw,
Yes.
Mr. Gerbach,
Yes.
Iwamoto.
Yes.
Mr. Rusa,
Yes.